It's 6:01, and I would like to welcome everybody to the Newfane Selectboard meeting for May 17th, 2021. We have numerous members of the public in-house and on Zoom. Thank you for coming here. We have Mike Fitzpatrick on the phone, and Shelley Huber, Katie Johnson-Applin, Ann Golob, myself, Angela Sanborn, Juanetta Powling, and Austin from BCTV. The first thing is there's a possible executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session under Title 1313 A3 and or A4 for evaluation of public officer or disciplinary action of public officer?
I make such a motion.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
What is it for?
It's under Title I, VSA 313A3 and or A4 for evaluation of public officer or disciplinary action of public officer.
And that's for executive session for right now?
Yes.
If anything, if you plan on having it, at least move it to the end where you get rid of some of the people in the public, you know? If you're still planning on having it tonight, you know?
Anyone else?
We could do it after correspondence if that's.
We could also just,
That-
we could go outside and call Mike on my cell phone.
I'm just thinking this way you can deal with some of the stuff that the public's here for right now.
Yeah, that's a little further on in the agenda. I think that this is something that needs to be discussed first, that should be discussed first.
You want us to go outside?
We can go outside too, if you'd like.
I'd rather. Yeah. You okay with that? Yeah. Okay, why don't we just go outside? Come and get us when you're ready.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Anyone opposed? Abstention?
We just need to shut that down for a bit.
All right.
We'll be back
Going into
shortly.
executive session, is it okay if we have Juanetta in, or should Juanetta?
I think it should be just executive.
What's that?
I think it should just be executive.
Just the board?
Just
Yeah.
us.
Okay. So we're exiting executive session at 6:15. Is there a motion?
Motion to exit.
Seconded.
And in leaving executive session, it's no action required. So we're moving along to additions and amendments to the agenda. Are there any additions or amendments to the agenda?
None from me.
No.
You didn't want to talk about the new restrictions?
Oh, sure.
I thought that's
Should I talk about them?
the new order.
I actually didn't get prepared for that, but do you have anything in front of you?
Well, this governor has lifted the mask mandate
Right,
for
so,
people who are vaccinated.
and even with non-vaccinated. So, do we have a listing of those?
What?
The new mandate that there's a certain number of people that can be in a room based on the size of the room and based on whether or not you're vaccinated or not vaccinated.
So suggestion would be to put it on the next agenda to revisit our COVID-19 policies and procedures.
And then
It would
also,
be good to list, like Brattleboro still isn't lifting theirs,
No.
despite the state verdict. It would be good to know if other towns are doing the same, things like that.
yeah, and then,
Actually, I've seen a couple stores that have actually got it that the mask isn't required but suggested.
I saw that at the West
Right.
Foresboro
What?
store
Say it
today,
The mask is not required,
but suggested.
Oh.
right, and then, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was gonna be on the agenda.
Oh, I didn't know either.
Well, why don't we discuss it in
New
our next
restrictions,
meeting?
Next meeting.
Well, I just wanted to, have I guess, a short discussion that there are differences and whether or not we should be looking at opening up the office to the public.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so if we could all review that, and then we can update our policies and procedures for the next meeting, and then we can go forward into
Sounds great.
the
Yeah.
new year.
Could we also poll the employees who work here in the office
And how
and
they
see
feel?
what their
Mhm.
Yeah.
request would be?
I'm coming. in.
Juanetta, would you do that?
Mhm.
Just check everyone in the
Yeah.
office?
I'll be
I
here
did
tomorrow
speak
too.
with BCTV today,
Oh, right,
and they do have criteria for being here.
right.
So at this point, they haven't had time to review or readjust theirs. So we do have to take that into consideration as well.
Right, that's the other thing, because in order for us to be taped, they have a requirement.
Okay.
So as we go into the next meeting, we'll probably have a better idea.
All right, moving on to approval of the minutes, May 3rd regular meeting. Entertain a motion to accept.
I make a motion to accept.
A second. Any discussion?
Um, no, I can ask Jerry, I have a question on one of them. That's all right. Good,
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
bye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I just, hey, I wasn't there.
Ayes have it. And moving on to the May 3rd Board of Liquor Control meeting, is there a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept.
A second.
Any discussion?
Just a noting that it's the minutes that we have versus, is this the minutes?
That's the meeting minutes.
That's the meeting minutes though, isn't it?
No, it's just for the Board of Liquor Control,
Just the liquor control.
7:54.
It's a separate meeting that we had after the regular meeting.
Yeah, but should we have minutes?
Aren't these done?
These are the minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
But it should say minutes on top of it, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Add that. All those in favor to accept the Board of Liquor Control minutes as amended with the one word minutes added to the top?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Myself, wasn't
Okay.
there.
Thanks for being here tonight, Jay. You're up for the road foreman and road commissioners report.
Okay. So the bridge work on Monroe Bridge is progressing. The plan is to try and put down the rubber membrane next week, the paving to follow. The Depot Road culvert, the Nation Star Bank has sold the property at 254 Depot Road to another bank. We're now rewriting everything to reflect the new owners so we can work on getting the easement. This is either the third or fourth rewrite we've had to do to get it through.
Hmm.
I'm hoping we'll catch up with this before long. And it all has to go back through V-Trans every time to get their approval before we can actually go to the people to try to get the easement signed. The sand salt shed, we have most of the documents for the state's recommendations incorporated, and the engineer will wrap up the paperwork. They're still looking at not going out to bid till next January, so we've got a little while on that. I had a request that the select board write a letter to the property owners at both ends of Railroad Lane, reminding them that it's a legal trail and the access needs to be kept open for the public. People are kind of trying to discourage the public, I believe, so they're closing down the ends of it, but it is open for biking, walking, horses, whatever, because it is a town trail.
Okay.
I want to do 2 days of crack sealing on the pavement. So the cost for NICOM is approximately $2,125 a mile. For Gorman, it's approximately $4,200 a mile. We used Nikon last year and they were very good and it's held up well. That's kind of the thing you look for, is if you can go through a winter plowing and the ceiling stays in the cracks, that's really good. And theirs did really well. We had no issues at all.
Would you like us to make a motion and vote on this now?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to go with the Nikon company to do the ceiling.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have
Thank
it.
you. I'm going to try to do some crack sealing every year. It kind of extends the life of the pavement a little bit, so hopefully we can keep up on this. I'm still trying to come up with a good location for the veggie truck. The church location there's a chance that court could be in session on one of those Tuesdays. It just seems like it could be a real problem with the congestion there. I talked with a couple of people in Townsend, and I don't know, I thought of the parking lot at the fire station, but I'm not sure that would help either because there's still going to be a lot of cars on Route 30. So I'm trying to come up with a place that we can make this work. So I think we have till September, so we're going to keep working.
Shelley?
I noticed there was a big truck with a table on the Jailhouse Road one morning.
Oh, that was for Secure Shred, and they offer that service. They go and do for people who want to secure.
And I didn't know if it was a food truck or what, but I didn't see anybody. I think the library was offering it, a shredding service.
Yes, it
Okay.
was on Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Gloria?
Yeah, the West River Valley Mutual Aid had an email from Rachel Worthington, who is the woman for the Veggie Van Go. And I kind of pointed her to Doris to see what the result was. But I think it's maybe August that they're hoping to do it, Jay, but I'd have to check that. And so I'll get back to her. Or do you want me to give you her contact
Sure.
information?
Either way, actually, if I could get more information, that would be really good.
Okay, I'll forward you her email.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
So the pull-offs on Dover Road and Grimes Hill, you had asked about, because of the dumping, people dumping rubbish. They seem to get a fair amount of use from people pulling over to use their phone or for good reasons. So I'm trying to come up with an alternative plan to closing them off that would keep them open, but also discourage dumping. And I didn't know if we could try, pick the worst one and maybe put a camera up. I use one that's, I think, $10 a month for the photos to just get sent to my phone. There might be a way of doing something like that to try to discourage it. I don't know. But
Hamm isn't a terrible idea.
Say it away.
A game can isn't a terrible idea if that's
No,
what
that way
Jay's
we can find out.
discussing. I don't see
It
why
is
that
or
would
not?
be. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get some animals if there's food there, but
yeah.
Maybe license plates.
Is there a sign that can be put up about illegal dumping?
Yeah, we have no dumping signs at the Grimes Hill one and the River Road one.
I think that would be good, and then we can find out who and report it. Shelley?
So my other thought, Jay, is preventing by putting up a fence or something to be a deterrent. Maybe a metal fence, a wood fence, so it's not so easy for someone to just throw it out.
Okay.
or travel time.
Yeah, the worst thing is, I think you have to put the littering sign up, maybe, so if they do get caught, they know there's a fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I said it's probably a lot easier to pick that garbage up right there than it would if you block that off and they throw it down over the steep part of the grind hill on that over the guardrail. Yeah, once they start chucking it, they'll throw it over the high part.
Right.
And eventually somebody's going down over the bank 200 feet, dragging it all the way back up over.
Oh.
Right.
You know, so
pushing.
I think maybe put a sign up there, like Jay said, that's a pretty good pull off. A lot of people use it for other reasons besides throwing garbage out. You know, like if it's worse come to worse, it's probably a lot easier picking there than it would be over one of the steep banks somewhere, you know?
Right.
Yeah, maybe put a sign up, that way other people see it, and if they have to catch anybody, they call town and report it. Because if they're gonna throw it, they're gonna throw it somewhere, no matter what. You know?
Yep, they sure are.
I would recommend can.
I think the game
Let's
cam
start
is
with
it
that.
worth
And
a
as well as the
start,
sign.
and the
For
sign, the
$10
fine
a
sign
month.
sounds
And a sign.
reasonable. Maybe we could make it funny to make them laugh, but like Alice's Restaurant.
Can you look into
It's
the
probably
camera
a
idea,
legal wording
Jay?
required.
Yes, sure,
And let us know how much that would cost?
Or we could put a-
yes,
And if you have another sign, to at least start with that.
okay.
Excellent.
Where were we?
Number 8.
Oh, I have a request, for work in the right of way and an access permit on Station Road. The work has already been done, when I stopped him, but I did ask him to get a permit. I did put in there that he needs to open up a run out, on the riverside. And I spoke to him about it. It's, I think we can make it work. He's willing to, if it doesn't work, he is willing to rearrange things, but, I think we can make it work the way it is. So I did ask him to fill the permit out and you should have it there.
I have the permit right here. Would you like us to talk and vote on it?
Sure.
So this is an application for access / right-of-way permit from Walter Hagerdorn, 63 Cedar Street, Vermont, Brattleboro. Constructed new access for residential. Distance and siege.
This is for the property that he
This
just
is the
bought.
one, number 8, that he just said he already did for in town,
This is the property he just bought.
for Station Road, yeah.
This is, a property I think he owned for a year or so. He bought some other property down there too.
Oh, this is the previous one then, okay.
Can I entertain a moment for the select board to sign the application for access right away, which Jay had referenced in number 8 of his report?
Mm-hmm.
Who would like to do the motion?
I make the motion.
Second.
Second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Right.
Do you need all of us to sign it or just myself?
Just one.
Are you all okay if I just sign it?
yes.
Continue, Jay.
Okay. So now that we have a handle on how much money we have available for paving, we had to take off the crack ceiling and the bridge paving and some coal patch. I'd like to put out the paving to use the rest of that money. I'd like to put it out this week, and if possible, some point next week, have either a Zoom meeting or something for 10 minutes to open the bids, because they have to get the work done by June 30th. So I figured as much notice as we could give them would be.
Oh, wow.
So how much you got in there?
It should be, well, I believe when we get done, we'll have about 60,000 left.
There's no way of turning that over into next year's budget?
That supposedly the way our budget is set up, no, it just goes away.
Use it or lose it.
Where are you planning on using it, Jay?
Pardon?
Where are you planning on putting it?
From Baker Brook Road to the covered bridge is starting to break up. And eventually we're going to have to do Williamsville, but there's some work on some of the drains that have to happen first. So this would be from Baker Brook towards the covered bridge. And then depending on what they come in for price, Jail Street, where that was paved over the dirt, 8-10 years ago, towards Richard Merrick's is starting to really break up. And I would like to catch that before it gets any worse.
Yeah, I'd like to see some do like we talked about before, you know, like on that steel bridge, send it up the hill with some of that money that we got left over on this paving.
Mhm.
You know, like that, and even the South Woodbury Road up past Tommy Dollins, like we talked there.
Yep. Well, we got the grant to do the work on the South Woodbury Road in the next, to July 1st, to do the reclaiming and repaving of the South Woodbury Road section. V-Trans gave us the grant for that. So maybe we can extend that out a little ways when we're doing that one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why the only thing I was wondering if you could carry it over, just do that. You'd have a pretty good hunk of money then, you know.
Right. Yeah, according to Melissa, when she checked with I believe it was the auditor, she said the way ours is set up, if we put it under capital, then we could, but because it's just in the regular budget, it just goes away on June 30th.
Yeah.
Is there a day next week you have in mind you'd like us available?
Doesn't really matter. I just, because we have 2 more Mondays before we get to the next meeting, I said that was a little long to,
Right.
Yeah,
so.
Are there any dates available next week for anyone that can do? I can do next Monday.
I can't remember my schedule, but I think that's fine.
What are we talking about?
To open up the bid. for-
No, but what's the date?
Monday,
May
the 24th.
Yeah, I can do Monday
What time?
What?
evening, I can,
Same time, 6 o'clock.
5:30?
5:30.
Do a little bit earlier, 5:30. Is that okay with you, Jay? Do a
Yeah.
little bit earlier?
Now, can Juanetta, because we have to put that in the newspaper too, can she get it in time?
Can you get that in the newspaper? Tomorrow or Wednesday, correct?
Wednesday would be, yeah.
I could submit it tomorrow. It probably would be in the paper Friday, if not Saturday's edition, because it does take 2 to 3 days.
That's not enough.
That's not gonna be
That's
enough
not
time.
So if we did a Wednesday or Thursday
I can do Wednesday.
of this week?
You're actually calling
next
us tonight,
week.
Jay.
What's that?
Hey.
Mike?
Yeah,
I
any
think
day,
Jay,
but
was Jay gonna call some of the paving places just to let them know?
Yeah, I'll email it to everybody we have. Yep.
So you can get that out tomorrow.
Mhm.
Do we want to plan on Wednesday, the 26th at 5:30?
Sure.
that'll be fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing it by Zoom or coming in here?
I can come in here.
I would
don't think
prefer
it
to come in.
matters, either or.
Okay.
As long as one person's here to open it up, I can come over and open it up. Everybody, however everybody wants to do it.
I'll come in too.
What's that?
They open it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All I had.
All right, is there a motion to accept the road foreman's and road commissioner's report?
I make such a motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Thank you so much, Jay, for you and the crew for all your hard work.
Sure, thank you.
Now we're moving on to the administrative assistance report. Thank you, Juanetta.
The photos and information that Katie Johnson Applin provided the select board was forwarded to the Carr family. This was regarding the dog issue. The Carr family appreciated and was grateful for this information. On Monday the 10th, there were 2 other separate incidences involving dogs. I have shared the memos with the select board and I'm awaiting further information on both of them. One is dealing with it together amongst themselves and came in and registered 1 dog today. I have scheduled a Zoom meeting tomorrow with Sheriff Mark Anderson regarding the Regional Animal Control Program. That program will be starting as of July 1st.
Can I say something on that? Can we
Yes.
invite him in to speak with us before it goes live on July 1st so that we know from him what's happening?
That's a great idea.
Please.
Good way for people to
The
understand.
first June meeting, is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Sure.
If it's okay, if he's available.
Yeah.
Okay. Walter and Emily Hagendorf have volunteered to work the flower beds here at the town office. They have recently moved from Brattleboro and bought a house on Rock River Terrace. They would like to generously support our efforts to beautify the looks of Newfane Town Office. The Newfane Garden Club last year notified us that they were no longer capable of doing this. And so the Hagendorfs are going to volunteer to work our flower beds.
It's really nice.
That is very
super
generous.
nice.
So nice.
I would just make a recommendation that they make a statement that we're not responsible if something should happen to them, that they're doing it as a volunteer.
Can you draw something that you're willing to? Perfect. That is very generous and we appreciate your donation of your time to
Thank you so
beautify.
much.
And by the way, thank you for, I don't know who took down the pinwheels and the
Mark.
sign.
Mark did when he mowed.
Oh, when he mowed, okay.
Yeah.
They're under the desk if you still want to
Take
donate
it to
those.
Simpson Hill.
Yeah, I was thinking a school would really appreciate it. Timpson Hill or elementary,
Either one would be great.
right? So I'll follow up with that. Thank you.
Is there a motion to accept the administrative assistance report?
I make a motion to accept.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Accepted. Thank you, Juanetta, for all of your hard work.
Welcome.
And now we're moving on to committees. Do we have a planning commission update?
We do have Merle in attendance and
I
there's.
see Merle. He's next on the list.
There you go, Jane. The
Hi.
planning commission has been working on the ideas and places where the town and select board could focus. And we're working specifically with them on that. That's one thing. And then the planning commission did pass that they would be, I can't remember the exact wording of the motion, but that they would take part in the anti-bias training if the town was going to have it.
Thank you so much, Lynn, for the update. Any discussion on Lynn's update or? Okay. Next we have Merle with the notice of zoning fee increases. Good evening, Merle.
Good evening.
How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine.
Good.
Don't believe everything you hear.
So this was previously discussed at another meeting, and now we have the paper in front of us. And it's just to give us an update, or
Basically, what I'm looking for is just for you people to sign off and say, go ahead.
I thought we had already done that.
Yeah.
No, you never really signed off. I just, just kind of left hanging. You know, dot the i's, cross the t.
We can
I plan to start putting out a notice about June 1st. Post on the board and maybe on the front porch forum, maybe on the town website also. Alert people to the upcoming change. That is, if you say okay.
Well, I might ask, there's a motion to accept.
I'll make that motion that we do that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Let's notify him in writing.
Merle, that it's been approved?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just inter-office memo.
All those in favor to accept Merle's new updated application fees, say aye.
Aye.
We'll have Juanetta draw up a memo and put it in your box that it's been accepted.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Is there anything further on the committee reports? If not, we'll move on to scheduled members of the public. And first, we'd like to welcome George LaGrave, who is here in person, who would like to speak of Ruck Veterans Nonprofit.
Oh.
Good afternoon. Hope everybody's had a wonderful day today. I have. I don't know who did these flyers. Phenomenal. Great job. Thank you very much. I wasn't expecting that. That's why I brought down the 2 flyers we have here. The little paper one is what we give out at coin drops when we hold a coin drop. The big one here we put out at different areas in public stuff. We have boots and cans throughout. I got a bunch up there in Rossonville and Bonneville. I got some in Londonderry, Springfield, and also down around Keene. Okay. This just gives you a brief synopsis. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We collect no money from the federal government or the state government. This way here, we don't have to share any information with the state or the federal government, and the veterans like that. We have a full-time counselor. He's pictured in here, AJ. Yes.
Can I just ask if you could give an overview of your organization first before we get into further details? Because not everyone knows what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
We, an overview of it, we do advocacy. We also do an outreach program, and we have a counseling program. Our advocacy, we work with the veterans and helping them. As you can see on the pamphlet, I don't know if you've got the little pamphlet mission statement. We're out there to help the veterans. There's not many places between Manchester, New Hampshire and White River Junction that are assisting and helping veterans. And we're in the middle on that. We let the veterans know that they are not alone. We're out there to help them. The outreach program is we help veterans who are in need of help. We do not help veterans with their car repairs, but we help them with utility bills, rents, mortgage payments, whatever, and also with some billing. Last year alone, we helped 74 families and veterans. We don't pay the full expense. We give them we have a set limit of $500 per veterans, but we work with other outreach programs, Easter Seals, Friends of Vets, Vietnam Veterans of America, and other nonprofit organizations based out of New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, a little bit in New York and Connecticut, and also in Maine. So we don't work just down in Keene, we work all over New England.
And the name of your company, your name of your organization is Ruck Incorporated.
That is correct. And that is because when you got your backpack on, or rucksack as it's called today, it weighs about 80 to 120 pounds. And when you're told to take a break, you fall to the ground, and it's hard to get up with that extra, so you give your partner a hand and you ruck him up so he can get up and you can get going again. Okay? That's what that one there is all about. But we do the coin drops to raise money, along with other things. We have pictured on the front of this is our challenge, what they call a challenge coin. That's very common in the military. We have this one here. That was actually designed by AJ Page's wife, Lori. We actually worked on that one night at about 10 o'clock at Best Burgers in Keene, and designed it and got it built. I regress. But we also sell cups and mugs down there that are made in the USA. The coin drops are one of our biggest fundraisers. Last year, I held 5 coin drops, okay? And we raised almost $20,000 in those 5 coin drops for us, okay? It's a challenge and it's a job. I'm out meeting, like I'm here tonight, I'm meeting. We held one May 7th in Bellows Falls. We did really well there. I've got one June 5th in Keene, New Hampshire. And people ask us, why don't we do more in New Hampshire than we do in Vermont? And in New Hampshire, You can't hold a coin drop on a state road because they call that collecting the toll, and you can't collect the toll. So, and New Hampshire has the only right to do that. So you have to find a stretch of highway that is solely owned and maintained by the state, by the local town, or something like an entrance to a mall that is owned by a management company. And that's what we have in Keene, is where the Home Depot and Bed Bath & Beyond and Target are at. Ashbrook Drive is owned by a company, holding company out of New York. With, not only with helping the veterans with money and stuff, we also have a kitchen down there, an outreach pantry, food shelf. Last year we get out a little over 5 tons of food down there, and we have a couple of vets that hit the Elks up in Massachusetts and also in New Hampshire, and they bring in food every other week. The Boy Scouts in the fall, when they do their food drive, donate their foods to us, and we also get foods from the food pantry out of Keene and once in a while out of Brattleboro. They have surplus. Okay. We also have some clothing that we give out to help the veterans if they need it. But basically, you know, I'm here tonight asking permission to hold a coin drop out here on Near Road in the town of Newfane. It's close by, a lot of traffic, and I have to have a letter from the town saying that it's okay to go ahead and hold it before I can go and talk with the state police and the highway department about that. So.
Would you do this over Memorial Day weekend?
Beg your pardon?
When would you plan on doing this?
We're looking at July 10th. I'm doing that. That was the date that I have penciled in on my calendar.
Well, I make a motion that we, select board, the town of Newfane, write a letter to state that he's welcome to host a coin drop. We do it for our fire department.
Yeah.
So I think this is a valuable organization that we should allow them to do a coin drop in our town.
I agree. Is there
I
a
second it.
I second, yeah.
Any further discussion?
I think it's a wonderful idea. I'd be interested in learning more about the
Yeah.
Walkout of Darkness.
So the Walkout of Darkness is put on by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Last year they didn't hold it because of COVID. This year they're not holding it because of COVID. We sponsored a Walkout of Darkness in Keene, and they're the main supporters of suicide prevention against veterans. And we are the only military group that does the Walkout of Darkness. And when they was in Boston 2 years ago, we had the biggest group. We had 53 people there that walked for the Walkout of Darkness. We only had 12 that did the night walk in Keene because we didn't have enough time really to put it together. But we have a day walk that we do. It's a 3-mile hike, and that normally brings in about 45 to 50 people. And all of the proceeds that we get from those 2 walks go directly to AFSP. We do not keep a dime in our house. If you look at our site online, you'll see that we sell mugs. We have a green mug in there that's slated for the prevention of suicide. And all of the proceeds that we go from that mug go to the AFSP proceeds. We paid for the mugs out of our pocket, and we're selling them to go for that. So, if you check us out online, it's ruck-up.org, and you can find out all sorts of information there, what we do. This flyer here that I gave everybody in the back of it, the last page, if you have a veteran that needs help, this is something new that we incorporated last year. Has a paper that can be filled out and sent to us or dropped off or given back to where the flyers are, and I pick them up, and we'll get in touch with the veteran and help them out. And we're all veterans. None of us collect a paycheck. All the money goes to helping there. On our boards, we do have 2 women that are not veterans. One is my wife. She's our secretary, and figured that, you know, with me being in the military for 25 years was, you know, enough for her pay to get her in there. And the other one, the lady had 3 sons that was in the military, and they all made it through. So.
Wow.
We have a motion on the table in a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Excellent.
Thank you
So we
very
will
much.
draw up the letters. Is it okay if I sign on
I'm gonna-
behalf of the board?
I think some of us will be in
Please
touch
do.
with you to
Yeah.
help you.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll
Thank
get you a letter in support to get
Thank you
this
very much. I
started.
appreciate the help.
No problem. Thank you for
I'm down
coming.
there Wednesday, my day to go to counseling. I still do it after 50 years, but I'm down there and I'll talk with AJ and let him know what's going on. And we'll look forward to seeing you in July.
Absolutely.
Terrific.
We'll send out
Thank
a
you very
letter to you.
much.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, Gloria with Japanese knotweed.
I was going to come down and have a nice little crown of it around my head, but I decided that that wasn't a particularly good idea. Most of you are aware of the Newfane and the complete southeastern Vermont's problem with Japanese knotweed. And I'll get a packet together that I gave to the other board members last spring. I can't remember what lifetime ago. But Katie and Ann, you don't have that packet, but I'm sure most of you are aware of the Japanese knotweed. If you look at it right now, you're going to see lots of it growing right exactly beside the road.
Yes.
And as I mentioned last time, Newfane has two definite impacts, both of them financial. And so I'm coming today to suggest one way to do a little bit of work on it. The Southeastern Vermont Watershed Alliance has a grant that I need to finish off this summer, and we've done a little bit of work, but we need to continue that. So the first problem that Newfane has, it's not only Newfane, but it's also the state of Vermont, the roots. If you look at Route 30 and you look at the sides of our roads, we have Japanese knotweed that is within that much of the pavement. And it was about that much last year. So now it's that much. And next year, it's going to be coming right up through the pavement. We have Japanese knotweed coming up through the pavement on Wiswall Hill Road Bridge. So those, the closer it gets, the more financial impact that's going to have on the town of Newfane. And Jay has done in the past, and he's willing to do again. He takes his own, what is a single sickle mower on his own tractor and comes down and cuts it on Grimes Hill Road and other really significant places that it comes over the road and interferes with traffic and this traffic safety. So Jay was saying he's willing to do that several times, but I think there are implications that he's using his own equipment and it's not insured. And he has been doing that on his own time. So Jay, could you speak to that a little bit? I didn't say I was going to ask you to, but that will be one thing. And I'll tie in something else with that in just a second. Jay?
Sure. I found out if I rent my tractor to the town, I'm covered by the town's insurance, so I could continue to do it. It wouldn't be a lot of money. It's, it might be a couple $100 a year, but as long as it's rented, I'm insured. So I wouldn't have to try to get insurance on my own to be able to continue to do it.
Would you prefer that to be like a per diem type of payment on your end or a lump sum?
It doesn't matter. We just have to call it a rental and then it's fine. So however we do it.
Okay.
So I would assume that you need to have that written up in the same way to make sure that it's covered legally. So that's up to the select board.
You want Annetta to draw that up or Melissa?
Melissa?
The treasurer.
That might be a Melissa.
I'm wondering if it's a Melissa since it's payment issue.
If I write up the bill and just put rental, I think that would do it.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic.
Yep.
Submit it to the board for signature.
Shall we make a motion on that?
Yes, I make a motion that Jay writes up
Invoice.
an invoice
To rent out his
to
tractor.
rent out his tractor for the work he does to cut the knotweed down.
Is there a second?
I second.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion on that?
Is there any, I'm curious, because I've watched it spread slowly up Dover Road. Is there any help or care to take, like wiping down blades between points that needs to be addressed
Yes,
to keep it from spreading?
yes. So pretty much what needs to happen is Jay with his own tractor would need to take care of that. What happens with mowing by the state along Route 30 is they just do it and it continues to spread. So there should be that. That kind of brings me into my next topic, but along with doing it along. Excuse me?
We need to vote on the motion and then we can go
Oh,
further.
I'm sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, continue on, Gloria.
And then the next part of this is the knotweed really should be kept in this spot where it's mowed down. And I know last year I took truckload after truckload up to my own place and I dried it and I burned it, when we could have a burn permit. And according to state rules is that the knotweed should be taken there or left there and dried. That will entail needing to get several pallets in each place because this has to be kept up off from the ground or it's just going to continue to root. So whatever we get up needs to be placed. And I just don't have, number one, the pallets, and number two, the time and energy to cart pallets to all of these spots. So I'm wondering if there's a way, working with WW with their reject pallets that they at least used to give away, that we could ask the road crew to just take pallets to places. Jay cuts it down, and I'm sure I can get Watershed Alliance volunteers or other volunteers, people close to there, to pick up the knotweed and place it because it has to be dry. And once it's dry, it's great compost. But any rhizomes need to be absolutely dried, and I would take the rhizomes and get them burned somewhere. So that's another request on my part. The other one is a danger to the financial well-being of the town of Newfane is your leach field, our leach field. And if you were to go out and look at it right now, you're probably going to see knotweed up to about 2.5, 3 feet in height. So what I was thinking about that is that if we could get a dedicated push lawnmower, because I was going to suggest that we have Mark just mow it each time. But Mark would then, as Katie pointed out, you have to clean down the blades. And that could be quite a process for Mark, and I don't know if the town would want to pay him for that kind of time. My other suggestion, and I've gone online, is to look for gas-powered or battery-operated push lawnmower that has a capture bag with it so that you mow it, all of the debris goes into the bag. We have maybe a rain barrel or some kind of a barrel that we put all of that debris in, and then we mow it every couple of weeks, just mow it, and potentially within 2 to 3 years, then that knotweed will be so tired that it will give up the ghost. And I'm wondering too if this, for example, this dedicated lawnmower could be taken to the sides of the roads where, Back Street, not Back Street so much as Brook Street, and other places where it could be just used for the town. And it seemed to run with a battery operated one that has raised back wheels, we're probably talking a good $300. So that's that one, but something has to be done or you're going to lose your leach field. Because the rhizomes, for those who don't remember, they go down about 9 feet and they're going to destroy the leach field.
That's something we can talk to Mark about first and see if he's willing to do something like that.
Well, I make a recommendation that she puts this in writing. We look at it at another date of time.
Okay,
Do that, Gloria?
I certainly can.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And then
pretty
we can
complicated.
discuss it
Yeah,
again
then we have
at
it.
length and make a vote on it.
Okay, so, and those of you who are concerned and if you have any knotweed next to your place, I would love to have you join we have this grant, which is called Adopt a Patch. And I know Lynn Forrest has agreed to take one on, and I haven't gotten her the material yet. But we have 2 to 3 different ways that we can go ahead and try to knock it back. So there's an experiment with doing mesh. I've done a couple of trial spots in Newfane, and I know that they're doing some in Brattleboro. So if we could get everybody to adopt a patch, we'll work through how to take care of it. It'll be done slowly. It's going to take work. But if we don't do this, all of our riverbanks are being taken over so that we no longer have root systems. We also are losing the flora and the fauna from that. And it's a significant problem.
Johanna?
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to report on animals that are good at getting rid of knotweed, not necessarily along rivers, but I had a lot of knotweed behind my house and I ran my pigs through there, which you probably don't want in the town of Newfane, but sheep could be worse. I don't know if is the area that you're talking about, Gloria, is there grass there as well, or is it just knotweed?
The main parts that I look at are along the rivers and along the roadsides. Yeah. And I know that if we had the money, goats are great, sheep are great, and we just don't have the money for that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The bend coming out of South Newfane towards Dover is real bad, both sides of the road. And it's definitely a sightline issue.
Sometimes
when it gets high.
Sometimes I've seen where a company, a man would bring out his sheep, fence it in, and leave his sheep there.
Absolutely.
So look into
about $125 a day.
Okay. So
I mean, I might consider doing that just for the town on a leach field, but there has to be some grass there as well, because the sheep will happily eat some knotweed, but if it's like grown to full size, they're not gonna
be part of
eat it. It'd be good if there was some grass there as well.
Well, there's
That's a great idea. I think, as Shelley said, write a proposal out and send it down to us for further discussion. And then anybody who's interested in adopting a patch of knotweed to give you a call, email.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And hopefully we can get this under control.
Or knock back some.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Anything further on Gloria's presentation on Japanese knotweed? Well, thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it soon. Next on the agenda, we have Apple Gifford, who's presenting West River Valley Mutual Aid Anti-Racism Working Group. Good evening, Apple. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me tonight.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, so I'm here on behalf of the West River Valley Mutual Aid Group, and I'm actually going to hand the mic off to Kate Gehring for just a moment to explain a little bit about who we are, and then I will read the letter.
Hi, Kate. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for having us. I am Kate Gehring. For those of you whom I don't know, I'm a member and I guess a co-coordinator of West River Valley Mutual Aid, which in sum, we are neighbors helping neighbors. We a few of us were thinking, I guess we got started last spring. A few of us were thinking about how we could help neighbors affected by COVID. And we came together, started cooperating in what has become West River Valley Mutual Aid. It turns out that a lot of people in this community share the interest, and we now have an email list of volunteers and recipients with more than 150 people on it, as well as people who have come through word of mouth, who aren't online. And we work, basically, we sort of a big organization, then we have a bunch of working groups and projects. Some of them I think you know pretty well by now. We have an Everyone Eats project and working group, and after some of our members lobbied for 6 months, we have been handing out or helping distribute the languages specific meals in Newfane with the great support of the church since December. For scope or scale, we in April alone, our group of volunteers and everyone helped distribute more than 1,880 meals through Everyone Eats Meals. We have a direct assistance project, which Gloria has really led and is coordinating rides to vaccine and doctor appointments, amazing amounts of help for neighbors by matching people up. And we have wonderful volunteers. We have a bunch of other project groups. Last mile deliveries has been it's not a specific group, it's been a really important part of what we've done in more of the catalog. Our volunteers helped deliver 25 boxes. I gotta make sure I get the numbers right. 25 Veggie Van Go boxes, 23 Farms to Families boxes. We have volunteers who worked with the Newbrook PTO to make welcome kits for new families. Don't want to take too much time, but there are a lot of projects and they have come up organically. Everything is community led and determined by needs and opportunities. Another one of our working groups is an anti-racism working group, which took shape last summer in response to racist graffiti on Route 30 and led an effort to have you all issue a statement. Thank you for doing that so well, kindly. And as part of that group's work, our group's work, the group is continuing to think about ways to care for the community and make sure that Newfane continues to be a safe and inclusive place for everyone, and exploring ways to just be a place that everyone can live and visit and enjoy together. And Apple will, I'll pass to Apple to read that request. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. So I'm Apple Gifford. I'm a resident of Newfane. I'm also a Justice of the Peace. I think I'm in my 3rd term right now as Justice of the Peace. And so I'm going to read the letter that was written by our working group and signed, I believe at the time that we turned this into the select board, I think we have 145 signatures on it. So here we go. Just making sure everybody, I forgot to ask, but I'm assuming you all can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, great. Okay. Dear Select Board, thank you for agreeing to serve our community for another year. As the virus restrictions ease, we hope to see Newfane moving into a vibrant future. We know that people are in flux and that there is interest in folks coming to small rural towns like ours to raise their families and establish their lives. Many new residents from diverse backgrounds have joined our community during the pandemic. As Vermont considers applying American Rescue Plan Act funds towards increasing housing infrastructure, and as young people increasingly consider climate change as a factor in where to raise their families, we are likely to see more and more people choose Newfane in the coming years, which would be wonderful for the health and vibrancy of our community as a whole. To that end, we would like our community to be as welcoming and inviting as possible. In the past year or so, numerous racist incidents have marred community cohesion in various Vermont and Windham County towns, including right here on Main Street in Newfane. We at West River Valley Mutual Aid are grateful for the statement adopted by the Select Board last fall in response to community members' requests for a town response to the vandalism. We request that the Select Board now find an appropriate diversity or anti-bias training that could be offered to all town employees and officials, as well as being available to members of the community at large. These kinds of programs have become commonplace across professional, educational, and governmental settings, both here in Vermont, including in Brattleboro and Rutland, and around the country. We recognize that this may take some effort and that there is a wide range of efficacy in these trainings. So we would be happy to help by working with the board to find one that would best meet the needs of the town. By taking this proactive step, Newfane will be sending a welcoming message, not only to all newcomers to our town, but also to our neighbors of diverse backgrounds who are concerned about our understanding of and empathy for the nuanced problems they face. Newfane could proudly share the news of town employees and officials undergoing anti-bias training on the town website and through a press release. This would be an added benefit of making our town more appealing to potential residents who may like the idea of rural life, but be concerned about the lack of diversity. A town that acknowledges the existence of bias is a safer, more attractive place to live, both for those of us here already and for those who may consider joining us in the future. Thank you for considering our proposal. Sincerely, West River Valley Mutual Aid.
Go ahead, Apple.
I'd just like to add that as an official in Newfane, I'm excited about this venture and happy to participate or help however I can.
I'd like to say thank you so much for your letter, and I see we have a lot of folks in the audience and that would like to speak this evening and on this topic. And I'm going to ask that we remember to treat each other all with respect and kindness. And when one is speaking, we don't interrupt and let everybody say what they would like to say. And I'm going to ask if we can have a 3-minute time limit on everyone speaking initially so that we can try to hear what everybody has to say, because that's important. And Juanetta is going to be the timer, and she's also going to help me keep track of hands that are going up so everybody who wants to speak can speak. Shelley.
Yes. So I just want to make a point that out of the petition that was done online, we have approximately 1,400 residents in Newfane. Only 73 people signed this online petition, which is 5.2% of our residents. That information was only given to the select board. So I wanted to make that very apparent.
Okay.
Thank you.
And would anyone else like, and I'm also going to encourage, we have a lot of correspondence for this particular topic, and anyone that's present in the meeting that would like to read their correspondence for us, I encourage you to do that. So would anyone else like to speak? Is it Fiona? I saw your hand.
Yes, it is. I was one of the people that sent a correspondence, and I was wondering if you'd like me to read that for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So my name is Fiona Chevalier. I'm a resident in town. My husband and I are also business owners in town, and I work for WCSU as the librarian for multiple elementary schools in town. So this is the letter that I sent you guys. Dear Select Board, thank you for choosing to serve as our town officials. I appreciate all the hard work you do to help our town run smoothly. I'm writing to share my support of the anti-bias training proposal being put forth at the upcoming meeting. A voluntary anti-bias training offered by town officials and town community members alike is a wonderful opportunity for our town to learn and grow. As a community member, I would be excited to participate in such a training. In addition to an anti-bias training being a wonderful idea, it would be in line with our local schools and a recent state law, as well as the recent declaration of Inclusion Week, May 9th to 15th by our governor. Act 1, which is an act relating to the ethnic and social equity studies standards for public schools, was signed into law in 2019 by Governor Scott. And I attached that act for you. I'm not going to read it out. It's 12 pages long.
Thank you.
But the Education Justice Coalition of Vermont summarizes the act this way. Act 1, quote, brings together the members of the public from different ethnic and social backgrounds, the state, and the educational community to help tackle bias, discrimination, and inequity in Vermont schools. The law creates a 20-person group called the Ethnic and Social Equity Standards Advisory Working Group that will review educational standards and policies in Vermont schools and create suggestions for improvement that can be accepted by the state and selected by schools for use on the local level. These suggestions will go out to the Vermont State Board of Education to review and adopt if they agree with the findings. End quote. What I really like about Act 1 is that it is not a mandate for local school curriculum, but it is a working group of many different stakeholders to create better educational policies. I feel that an anti-bias training here in Newfane would be a great way to bring our local stakeholders together to help our community become more inclusive. As a parent of a kindergartner at Newbrook, I was curious as to what our supervisory union is doing related to Act 1. In full disclosure, I am also a school librarian at multiple schools in the WCSU. But putting on my parent hat, I asked Mr. Tabashnik, who is the principal, about this, and here's what he shared. He shared the following bullets. Number 1, during the 2019...
Your time is up. Yep. I'm so sorry, it goes really quickly. Can you summarize real quick what he said for the group, for everyone?
Sure. I thought you said you wanted people to read their correspondence, so I would really appreciate it if I could finish.
I'm sorry, but I have to keep it at 3 minutes so that everybody can speak.
Okay. Basically, there's a 5-year plan that's happening for the WCSU.
Okay.
We began it this year with an anti-bias training, it's actually an implicit bias, that's the language they used, by the Kernwan Institute. And they're spending the next 5 years developing policy. They're coming up with a working group that's going to work on ensuring that our curriculum is in line with Act 1, and that we have some policies already, and that, the curriculum, and that we're going to go deeper as a faculty. And as part of the faculty that went through the training, we really, really appreciated it, and it's been helped us become better educators.
This is excellent, and I appreciate you attaching this to your letter so that we can take the time to thoroughly read it and
know what the school's doing.
And go through it. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there someone else who'd like to speak? Yes, go. Chris White, thank you so much for being here.
Okay. There's a few things that I'd like to mention, and I actually included it in the letter that I sent.
Can you speak up just a little louder?
Can I take my mask?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. I don't understand why this is the business of the town. This is not the business of the select board, specifically because we have people like the West River Valley Mutual Aid who could put this program on. That is what they're trying to do, is to unite the community, to serve the community, to make it a better place. They're the perfect vehicle for doing it. And the town gives money to groups to support efforts such as this. I just have a real problem with it being part of the functioning government of the town. I don't think that's where it belongs. I'm not sure, and there are so many questions. What prompted this? We don't have a problem. Everybody here gets along very well. We do not have a problem. We had one incident of somebody writing graffiti in the road. We don't know who did it. We don't know why they did it. We don't know if they were members of the town. We can't control what happens outside the town. Somebody comes through and writes graffiti on the road. That's not something the town can control. So my whole issue is, I'm not against the program. I'm not against training. I would like there to be more discussion between people. Nobody has approached me to discuss why I feel the way I do. Regardless of that, I just don't believe this is the business of the select board. And I didn't use my whole 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chris. Next. Juliet, good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for hearing us out. So I think you have a letter from Apple that's a summary of maybe 6 or 7 letters from various neighbors in our community about why they're in support of this idea in general, but also specifically addressing what Chris just said about why is this the business of the town and whether or not this is a political issue. And we submitted that to you specifically because we thought that that was a point worth addressing from the outset. So I'd love it if you could read that and address it directly. I think it's important for us to note when we talk about this, that this is not a strange thing. This is a thing that government organizations, school districts, private businesses, large and small, all over the country, but also all over Vermont are already doing. This is like kind of the zeitgeist, right? This is a very normal, like as we started talking to people in the community about this over and over and over again, from people from all walks of life, we heard, oh yeah, I had to do that at my job, or that, and that kind of thing, from, you know, everything from smaller businesses in Brattleboro to people who work for states or colleges, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think it's important for us to realize that this is the direction that things have moved. And this is where like sexual harassment training was in 1991. Right? This is just sort of like part of what a lot of places are doing now. And it behooves the town of Newfane to be up to date with that sort of thing, especially if we want to continue to be attractive and like maintain that welcoming environment. We don't need to wait until something horrendous happens and the barn's on fire, right? We can respond proactively and show ourselves, our community, and you know, other people who are considering joining our community that our heart's in the right place, we're interested in learning and talking and growing, because this is not a referendum on past actions. This is an opportunity for growth in the future. And I think we can be really excited about the places that we have to go, if that makes sense. And I also want to offer that there's a really wide variety of different types of programs that offer this sort of service at all different, you know, completely different price points, from free to expensive. And we've been keeping a running list in the working group, but just of things that people in town have brought up that they've done and found fruitful. But, you know, we'd be happy to work with you to find one that fits the needs of the town, or find like several and help present something like a bite-sized piece so that you could pick something and it wouldn't be unmanageable. You know, you don't have to invent the wheel on this, because we've got people all over Newfane who've done these trainings and like them. And I just think it's a really great opportunity for Newfane to set that welcoming, proactive tone, especially as things are opening back up now. And the ARPA money is very exciting, and new development in town. I think we are at a golden moment, and I think that it would be smart for us to kind of seize the day on that. And we also really appreciate you taking the time to hear us out.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your 3 minutes are fastly gone. But I appreciate everything you said.
Tim Madeline,
Lena, and then Chris.
Ask what they're resident.
Can y'all hear me?
It's just a working discussion.
Hello.
Yes, hi Tim. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hi, so my name is Timbo. I'm a resident of Brookline, and I heard about the West River Mutual Aid Group because I reached out to the Front Porch Forum community for about a month or so. My partner and I have been experiencing egging. We're getting our vehicles egged and our houses egged for putting up Black Lives Matter signs. And I feel like a training like this could really be beneficial to just reach to the community where folks are, that, I mean, this level of ignorance that can be easily like educated about why the statement Black Lives Matter is important, and how it's, you know, it's not stepping on other people's toes, and it's not a threat. And I've spoken with other members of the Brookline community who have also experienced egging around the same time period. And so it's not an isolated case. And so the reactions to these type of statements, which can easily be discussed at a community level, are ongoing. So I just wanted to raise that awareness. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciated. Chris Druk.
Chris Druk, South Newfane, Vermont. I actually have more questions than I do statements. I'm just actually new to West River Valley Mutual Aid, and wasn't aware of all the various things they've been doing over the last many months, really. Is it a 501c3 organization? On Facebook, I noticed that it's not an open forum, so you've got to join, and I would assume that, you know, some administrator says, okay, you can get in there. The other thing is, I noticed that the town of Newfane, Juanetta's number and her extension's on here, I assume for some of the programs. So, does the town of Newfane already sanction? Are there any grants that are operating in between these? And with regard to the issue at hand, my question is, how do you develop such a thing? And do the voters need to be asked as far as how much money would be expended to, you know, different training programs? I mean, where do you start? There's got to be a plan. That's the pragmatist in me, and I'm just asking the questions.
Can I address my name and contact information?
You may respond, Juanetta.
So back when Newfane Neighbors first became a program, when COVID started, I was approached by Gloria about using my contact information for referrals. If a neighbor needed a ride or prescription picked up or shopping, they could call here, leave a message, and I would contact and refer them to Gloria, and she would find the appropriate volunteer. So that's how my name and contact information was used. How it got onto the West River Valley Mutual Aid, I don't know.
Well, my thought was, I don't know if this organization is a 501c3, whether they can obtain grant money that could host a lot of these programs, maybe at the fire station, at the schools.
Right.
I don't know.
Does any, Gloria?
At this point, we are not a 501c3. We have not received any money, nor did we request any money from the town. All the money that we have in our account right now has been donated. And again, Juanetta's name was included mainly at the very beginning when it was Newburgh Neighbors. It was with Jay. We had to have some contact information. So initially, when I sent out the postcard, it was for contacting Jay because of the emergency management, and Juanetta as a contact, and I believe my number was on there. So Juanetta did refer a couple of people, and Jay referred a couple of people. Right now, it goes to the West River Valley Mutual Aid at Gmail, as well as to me for direct aid. Chris, at this point, we're still working as a steering committee to decide whether we're going to go as a 501c3. I think from my perspective, we were just so busy doing the things that we needed to do, like getting food to people, that we didn't spend the time looking over exactly all of the details to get into a 501c3. Did that answer your questions, Chris?
Yes, it does.
Thank you so much. Next, Lynn Forrest.
Thank you for recognizing me. I would like to say that, to begin with, that I think it's important for people that represent the town and deal with the public to deal with all people equally. Our exposure to media fixes images into our brains and emotions, and it creates an unconscious bias. If you think about the images of Black men, usually they're portrayed as criminals and Hispanics as gang members. We might remember a few years ago, a young Black SIT student was almost arrested because a checker at Hannaford's mistakenly thought he hadn't paid for a six-pack of beer. As a grandparent of a Black young man, I sincerely believe that it is important and useful to recognize our own unconscious biases, and that the training can help us do this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments.
And that was me publicly, not the planning commission.
Thank you, Lynn. Anyone else like to speak? Tina?
I'll speak up.
Oh, we have Tina and then you, Mike.
What's that?
Is Tina had her hand up and then we'll come to you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Tina Friend, welcome tonight.
I just have a quick question, and is this training for all races? Is this for everyone, or is it selective? I'm just a little confused on who it's available for.
Apple?
Yeah, the training is available for anybody who wants to sign up for it. We're recommending that it is available for town officials and employees and for anybody in the community who wants to join.
Okay, so it's all races.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Tina. Mike Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think this is a place for the select board anyways. And another thing is I just, like Lynn was saying, we'd be aware like racism and stuff like that. I've been on the board, I don't know how many years down there. I was on the board in the town of Wardsboro. I've had my own business, and I've never seen the road crew, any of them, any part of racism at any part of it. I never seen that throughout the board of selectmen. And we had somebody right on the road. The guy said he had to take some of that in, because he had a Black Lives Matter. Well, I know a lot of guys that had a Trump flag last year during an election. That people come, stole their flag, burnt the flag, and everything else. I mean, you'll have this. I mean, not all people agree, but as far as I think as a community, I voted last year to join the thing with us, what we did, because I said we're there for all the people. We're not there. I don't care about red, white, black, yellow, or anything. We're there for everybody. And I said, I don't think we need to have the thing where we're going to adopt that we're going to go in and tell everybody, you've got to go to these classes. We don't tell the road crew, and you've got to take all these classes, because we don't want you racism. I've never heard of anything to do with racism and pardon anything to do with the town's business. And it just makes me that, this just keeps going on and on and on. And it's like I was telling one of the selectmen earlier, I watched a thing on the news one night, and there's Morgan Freeman, a Black man, and colored, and he was talking to a white reporter. The reporter asked him, how do we stop racism? Morgan Freeman said, stop talking about it. He says, I know I'm Black, you're white. I know you're a white man, I'm a Black man. Do I have to refer to a color? Why can't we just call you by your name and what you are? It's this whole thing is just getting, if you keep, making it like a thing, like publicizing it, or, they painted Black lives on a road or something. Some people like it, some people don't. You're going to have people against it. Same with the little sign out front. Like I said, same with the Trump flag, or the American flag once in a while they burn. I just think it's getting way out of hand. I think everybody just try to go along and let it go along as that. I don't think this is a position that the town needs to take. And I guess that's my position against the thing. I have no problem if you guys want to do these little community things on your own. But like we said, there's people come ask us for money all the time for different things. We donate to most of them. And there's a lot of help out there for a lot of different things. I mean, just like tonight, the veteran was down there and talking about the suicide. That's a real important thing in my book, you know?
Well, thank you, Mike. Your time is up.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know
Johanna,
how I stand anyway.
thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for being
Thanks for letting me speak. First of all, I just would like to say that it's interesting to think of this in terms of power structures. Our society is structured so that there are certain people who have access to power, and I think the select board is, you guys are serving and doing a wonderful job, but essentially you do make up rules and laws that apply to the town. And so as such, you are a power structure, part of a power structure. I just want to say that, and then I would like to read the letter I wrote to you.
Yes, please.
Dear Select Board, I'm writing as a lifelong resident of Newfane to encourage you to participate in the anti-bias training. Personally, having traveled the world widely, but also having grown up in Newfane, Vermont, and done all of my schooling here, I feel well positioned to say that living in Newfane protects you from and keeps you unaware of the experiences of diverse people. It also means that the ideas you may encounter on a daily basis do not necessarily prepare you well to face the changing population of Vermont. As leaders in our community, taking the bull by the horns and showing us all how to confront racism will prove your mettle to Newfane. I went back to university in my 40s in 2003. And this was the first time I became aware of the movement to educate people about institutional racism. I had a very hard time with the aspect that felt like a finger was being pointed at me personally, simply because I was white. Getting past that reaction is crucial. And once you do get past it, the evidence is overwhelming. There is no doubt in my mind that white people have benefited from position and power, while Black and brown people have been mistreated, sometimes brutally and blatantly, and sometimes in more concealed ways that we are unaware of as white folks. As a woman, and I think I see a lot of women there on the select board, I can identify with this because I know there are many ways in which women are quietly or not so quietly treated differently from men. Men often do not perceive this happening. By extrapolating then from my experience, it is clear that we cannot always perceive how our actions hurt or restrain the advancement of another social group. A training that helps us to see the hazy shape of racism more clearly can only be an eye-opener. I strongly encourage you to take on this challenge. Thank you so much for working to make the town of Newfane a better place for all of us.
Thank you so much for reading your letter and for writing one to us.
Christine.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Do you have anything else? You have 9 seconds left. Okay, Gloria, we'll come to you. We have Christine next, and then.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I'm a resident of Brookline. I was not expecting to speak at this at all, and I'm really glad that this work is beginning to happen here. I just wanted to say that just even some of the things that have been said in this meeting are really problematic. And I feel like what others said, you can only learn. And maybe it's not that the whole world is focusing on something and they're wrong, but maybe it's just we have to learn. And to say that racism doesn't happen here and that colorblindness that's been very proven to not be true. I don't see anything wrong with promoting diversity the way that we would train folks who work in government not to have sexism or not to or to watch out for depression or any of these things that are now known not to be political, but just a part of being a human. So I moved to this area because I did think that it was a progressive place and welcoming to different kinds of folks. And this select board meeting and just the things that I've experienced, even as a white person who believes in the Black lives, has been troubling. And so I just want people, when they feel defensive or triggered about this topic, just take a moment and notice how it's feeling in your body and think, where is that coming from? Is that coming from fear and anger and feeling attacked, or is it something else? And what is preventing you from wanting to learn? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. I just want to say one thing, that I see that Apple and Gloria would like to speak. I'd like to give everybody who hasn't spoken yet a chance to speak, and then we'll come back around.
So Rob, Hamm, or
Erica, and then Reverend Hamm.
Erica? Hi, Erica
Thank you
Walch.
for being here tonight.
Thank you for being here. Erica Walch, a Newfane resident. So I'm also a member of the West River Mutual Aid Group, and I am not a supporter of the request that they've been asking the select board and have changed several times, I think largely in response to a letter that I sent when I had first read the draft of it. So I appreciate the changes that you've made to the request based on the letter that I wrote, and I think it's something that Chris White wrote. So I don't believe that it's the business of the select board to legislate morality, which is, I think, what the core of the request is. Also, the name of the request has changed, and I'm hearing different things: anti-racist training, anti-bias training, education, diversity. So I think that the part of the group, the anti-racism working group from the West River Mutual Aid Group, is trying to influence the government and ask the government in this town to do something without the input of the townspeople. And so I think the place to address this would be at town meeting and really get input from a lot of people, and not, the 150 people who happen to have seen the letter and listen to what the group wants to do. I also think it's the group's responsibility. If this private group would like to create this sort of a training and offer it to the public, that's great. It's, again, it's not something that the select board should be doing, because the select board is here to administer town government, not tell the citizens how to think, not educate the citizens, not to choose a particular political agenda. Everyone here is, elected without policy, without party. You're elected here as citizens to serve the citizens, and I think that this is a very partisan request to you. If you do decide to offer the training, hopefully with more input from the community, I hope that you will make a point of including all members of the community, reaching out to Republicans and to Libertarians and to conservatives, so that the training really is about the diversity of our community that exists here, more than thinking about hypothetical people who might want to move here and what would make them comfortable, but actually reaching out to the diversity that does exist in the community. That's it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Reverend Hamm, thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, thanks for including me.
Thank you for your.
I know it's really privileged to be a part of this, since I'm not a resident, but I really do enjoy my time working with the folk who live in Newfane. You're a special group of folk, and I appreciate what you who are serving as the select board, the kinds of gifts that you're giving. I'm one who's had to come to terms with what it means to live with white privilege, and I know a lot of folk who are often threatened by the notion that we are privileged because we are white. But it's not an accusation. It's a description of the reality of the way things are. And I know that I'm one who, though I've lived in other parts of the world with people of different colors. I know that it's taken me a long time to be growing towards being understanding my own unconscious biases, and I'm still growing in that way. But as a white person, I'm a part of the challenge that we all face as a community. And it's for that reason that I wrote a letter in support. I signed the letter from West River Mutual Aid, and I also sent a letter in support, and I'd like to read that to you. Dear members of the Newfane Town Select Board, thank you for all you do for the well-being of the town of Newfane. As a part-time pastor of Newfane Congregational Church, I've been privileged to work and serve with a wonderfully caring variety of people who live in Newfane and towns up and down the West River Valley, some of whom are constituents of Newfane Church, and many more who bring a variety of gifts that make Newfane that much richer as a community. As one who has supported the work of West River Valley Mutual Aid, I write today to add my voice in support of the request to find an appropriate diversity or anti-bias training. I do so precisely in the belief that doing so only adds to the skills that such a well-meaning and caring community can use as we seek to become better at looking out for the welfare of the growing diversity of the town. We do these sorts of things not because we're judged as somehow deficient, but because we already are a nurturing community. And I would add growing both spiritually and in our capacity to care. So a nurturing community that wants to become better at just this sort of caring. It's my intention to participate in that training, the better to grow my own capacity for caring for others in the growing diversity of all our communities. I hope you will join me in that intention. Sincerely, Robert Hamm, pastor, Newfane Congregational Church. And thank you for letting me read that.
Thank you so much for your letter and taking the time to be present to speak tonight. Dan Dewalt. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks for recognizing me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Just a couple of things. First, I would like to say that, the letter refers to folks moving into the community, and that's absolutely true. But there are also some folks who live in the community now. We have transgender members of our population, and they've expressed that they don't always feel welcome or comfortable here. So, all lives, transgender lives matter, Black lives matter, everybody's lives matter, and some get treated with more respect than others. And so this is simply a way to try to get the town to work together. This is really, we're trying to unite the town in saying we care about everyone in this town who is here. We care about folks who want to come in. And so we're gonna just explore together, figure out the best way that we might be able to really be welcoming to those folks. And I would like to say that the letter, once the letter was put out for people to sign, it was not changed. There was nothing changed to it. And I'm afraid, as much as I super appreciate all the positive remarks that folks have made about this training, because it's about a positive effort to do something good for the town, to bring the town together. But I do feel compelled to address two of the letters which you folks read last week, which just I'll just read my letter in response to those and let it speak for itself. Dear members of the Select Board, as one of its authors, I look forward to speaking with you about a proposal for a townwide diversity training that will be presented at your next meeting. In the meantime, I feel it is necessary to respond to a raft of assumptions, aspersions, and falsehoods that were contained in two letters sent to the board on the topic and read at your last meeting. From Christine White, number 1, the assumption or implication that the board needs such training is insulting. Number 2, the assumption or implication that the members of the West River Valley Mutual Aid are more enlightened or tolerant than the general population of the town is also insulting and arrogant. As you will see, well, as you heard tonight when Apple read the letter, we're encouraging exploration of this training for the entire town. We're not targeting the board. The authors of this letter want to benefit from any training that may occur, and we see ourselves as beneficiaries and participants just as much as the board or any other entity might be. The letter from Erica Walch is rife with errors and inflammatory language that has nothing to do with our proposal. First, there's no call to any mandatory training. She refers to self-declared political labels, but our letter to the board has no such labels and is not in the least a political document. She writes, quote, "The anti-racists believe that all people who are white are terrible, hateful, misguided, overtly or subconsciously racist, and bent on oppressing people who are not white and must attend trainings to realize how awful they are and be re-educated. The anti-racists also promote the idea that all people who are Black and are weak and victims of systemic racism must be protected by the well-wishing white people."
And I hate to interrupt, but your 3 minutes have gone by so quickly, and I really appreciate you being here and speaking.
Oh, man.
Paraphrase quick.
can I just finish the letters? I'm more than half, I'm 2/3 of the way done with the letter. Can I just finish the letter?
Sure.
An anti-racist is simply someone else. Speak faster. I've been trying to speak slowly. An anti-racist is simply someone who works to recognize and resist racism and prejudice wherever it is encountered. Ibram X. Kendi, a recognized national voice on the topic, defines it as follows: to be anti-racist is to think nothing is behaviorally right or wrong, inferior or superior with any of the racial groups. I aspire to be a anti-racist, as do many other residents of Newfane. Neither I nor anyone else I know share the important beliefs that Ms. Walch has outlined above. Again, from Ms. Walch, the people who believe this ideology want everyone to believe in the anti-racist message, which is also the opposite of diversity. They brook no opposition and despise those who disagree with them. I don't despise anyone in this town, including Ms. Walch. I and others who are promoting this idea want everyone in Newfane to feel safe and appreciated by their neighbors. Pure and simple. Why would we want to cultivate division and rancor by hypocritically despising anyone who disagrees with our ideas? And I won't finish everything. Just this is not about political indoctrination. This is about neighbors and neighbors caring for each other, and that's really what it is. And she refers to Chinese communists and fascistic anti-fascists and race traitor accusers. None of that is part of it.
Thank you so much.
You. I'm done.
I'm sorry, I got to stop you there so that we can have everybody else finish speaking. I appreciate your letter and your correspondence with this. I believe Keats is next.
I think she might have dropped off.
Oh.
So Afne will be your next.
Day, yes.
Okay, we're gonna go quickly. I want to let everyone know, we're going to keep this on the agenda as a working, so that we can keep talking about this subject and figure out how to proceed, because it is important and we want to hear everybody's opinions. We just are getting into the late hour, and I want to keep it on as a working item so we'll all have more chances to speak about our opinions and how the town should move forward on it. So I have Gloria, and then Apple, and then
I would like to speak for
and then Chris, and
that's it.
Gloria.
Yeah, Gloria Cristelli, and I just wanted to respond. I think this was more to Mike. Mike, when I was on the select board, I was told the very first meeting, you may not be here. Okay, now that probably because I was also the town clerk, but I was duly elected. And after that, I was duly elected 2 more times to sit on the select board. I've also encountered interactions with various, and I have to say males, going into my own background, nobody knows what kind of abusive treatment anybody else has had in life. And then when I'm confronted with a yeah, I can react according to the abusive situations I was in and clam up. I also have a good tendency to cry when I get angry. And that's because I probably had been slapped beside the head or whatever it was. So just for people to be aware is what I'm part of my support of this. We're not, if somebody says, well, that's the way I am, and talking to me, and you have to put up with it, there's no give and take on that. And so I think that it really does go far away from racism to an just bias training. And as Rob pointed out, becoming really aware. I grew up in Vermont. I was born and raised here. We did things in my high school and the University of Vermont that were racist, like the cake walk, if anybody knows what that is. And we had blackface guys who kicked up their feet, and it was entertaining. Did I have a sense of that was racist when I was playing in the band for that? Absolutely not. And it took until my sophomore year of college before the University of Vermont stopped that practice. So there's lots of background information from all of us that maybe we could just share with one another and people could understand that there are other sides of issues. And I think as a town, it would just be good for the town of Newfane Select Board to undertake, and absolutely with support, as Kate said, and Apple will probably say, support from the West River Valley Mutual Aid Working Group to organize this and get it going.
Thank you, Gloria. Apple?
Great, thank you. I just want to echo a couple. I've been keeping track of a lot of the comments tonight to just get a sense of where people are coming from. And one of the things that has occurred to me as I've been listening to people is that for those of us who have been through trainings, and I'm not just thinking for myself, but I've been through quite a few of these because I'm an educator. And we've been doing trainings like this for a couple of years at our school, is that many of us have blind spots when it comes to racism and the ways that we've been raised in a racist society, with ways that we don't even understand how it's impacted us. And I think listening to the people who have been through trainings like this and hearing what they've learned has just confirmed for me the importance of them and of listening to the people who've had the experience, as opposed to thinking about for people who haven't been through them and haven't had a chance to really explore their own blind spots. I think there's a real a contrast there. And I will say that one of the things that I've learned from going through these trainings is that not only do we have personal blind spots, but there's also institutional blind spots. And just as a giant example, when you think back to the laws of our country over the hundreds of years, and how women didn't used to have the right to vote, Black people didn't used to have the right to vote. When you go through these trainings, you learn how to look at policies, practices, laws, customs, just things, the way meetings are run, the way who's invited, how they're invited. Are we relying too much on internet access? Does everybody have internet access? We're looking at real questions of equity. And without the training, it's really hard to know whether you're doing things fairly and equitably as an institution. And I say that from experience. I think if we just think about looking into our own hearts and seeing if there's racism in our own hearts, it's easy to look into your own heart and say, oh, there's no racism there, therefore I don't need this training. But the reason the training is so effective is because it allows us to really look at the bigger picture. And again, the policies, the practices, the laws, the regulations, all the things that make a town run smoothly. So I'm, as I've already said, I'm really in support of this. And I also just want to say that we are not looking for funds. We're not proposing that the town give money to make this happen. We are really just looking to collaborate with the town. And we're so happy to do the legwork and help find the appropriate training and work with the select board or whoever else wants to be involved in helping us make it happen.
That's great. We have Chris White and Fiona, and I see Gerald hasn't spoken yet tonight, so we're going to have her speak too. So Chris?
Very quickly, just to clarify something, there were two versions of the letter. I have both copies. They have two different versions. They're not significant differences, but there are differences. The whole issue that I have is everybody up there has said, oh, I've been to training, I've been to training, I've been to training, I've been to training. If there's all this training available, why does the town have to do it? That is my whole entire issue. This is not a government function. In addition, there's a wonderful program going on at the library right now where people of all different thought processes come together and discuss issues. Not getting much attendance there, so I'm wondering what the really underlying, this feels more like a power thing than it does a real desire to make a bridge. Just my thoughts.
Thank you, Chris. Fiona?
Thank you for letting me speak again. One thing I would like to point out, I think actually Apple just said it, but my internet I've been unstable. Is that what we're asking for is that the select board decide to offer this kind of training, and that we would be happy to help come up with or share options. One option that is available to you that is free. There's a member of our community who works for EAP, and I can't remember what it stands for, but it is actually something that's offered to all state employees, including select board members. And they are actually offering an anti-racist training and an anti-bias training. And so there are free options out there. So it isn't about money. And it's been wonderful to hear everyone's opinions, but I haven't heard any of the select board opinions. And what I would really love is for us to hear how the select board is feeling about this, and if they would be willing to vote on whether they would like to offer this training or not tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fiona. Gerald? Thank you for being here tonight.
So I have been in education for 30 years. Just recently retired from 13 years at teaching at Leon and Gray, and both middle and high school. And I can tell you over those years, the number of times that I've heard from young students, 7th graders on up through high school, comments that were not appropriate. We did a lot of training, both the staff on how to work with the students, we held assemblies. So it exists out in our community. And if our young children are feeling this, expressing it, hearing it, then they're growing up to become biased adults. And so I guess it does exist. Maybe some people haven't experienced it, but I know it exists. My husband is a Black African, and I know he's taught with many of the students at the school, substituted, worked up at Leland and Gray and Newbrook Elementary. And there have been times that he also has experienced bias. And the bias is not just about color, but it's also about, gender, size, physical ability, kids that might need help in special ed. The stigmatization of everybody across the board isn't just about color. So these trainings are very helpful, as everyone expressed, in helping us to become more aware of these. And I think, as it's been expressed, the town could say we are an inclusive town and we support everyone. And perhaps the select board could investigate how many other towns throughout the state of Vermont are also participating in these kinds of trainings, and maybe they can share the resources. Maybe they will see that this isn't a political thing. It is a community caring for all members, and for those that we would like to have come and join us and move here and become members of us. So I would urge the select board to investigate whether towns are doing this. And as Fiona said, probably time to hear your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerald. Shelley, you had your hand raised. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, just to let everyone know, there's the VLTC, which as select board members, we have the ability to counsel with them. They have lawyers on call for us. And I did reach out to them, and their advice was to, have the ability to listen, hear your requests. The board can decide to voluntarily participate, but the board cannot bind any board member to the training or staff. This would be a non-binding petition because the legislature has not granted the voters an ability to control this area. So it's out of suggestion, and I just wanted to be mindful of that. There's other legislature that maybe you guys have fallen under as far as your training goes, but legally, it's a non-binding request.
Anyone else on the board have anything they'd like to say?
Well, I would just say that I've taken several of these kinds of training programs through my jobs, going back to the 90s, when the corporate world embraced it. I would say some of the courses I took were not very good, and some of them were superb. And the best one that I ever took personally was a course on understanding structural racism and understanding how laws have been established in this country and the differential impact that it had on different groups within the country, particularly very specific laws that have affected Blacks. Some of the history that they talked about, I knew. Some of it I did not. And when you begin to understand the transgenerational impact that some of these laws have, it really gives you a moment to pause and think about the impact that it has had. I really found that training excellent and eye-opening, and a very useful way to understand racial and ethnic stress and strife in this country, because it really looked to explain it from a structural standpoint. They were none of the courses I ever took were about attacking people or trying to make someone feel bad or accuse anyone. It was never, ever, ever like that. It really was much more about understanding history and policy and understanding the impact it has. And I found it excellent when it's done well. Finding the right course really makes a difference. I would say the course that Chase Manhattan Bank did decades ago when I was there, it was awful. But I am very good friends with a woman who runs an organization on Long Island where I used to live called the Race. Over my time, I apologize. I'll stop.
I was just gonna say.
Sorry. But I'm happy to try to figure out what kind of courses might be available and then to have the discussion of what would be the appropriate way of making it available if people wanted to pursue it.
Is the subsession group of West River Mutual Aid looking into finding certain trainings that are appropriate for what you're asking that you could present to the select board?
Yeah.
Juliet?
Yes, we are. We have a brainstorm list already of a number of trainings that other people in Southern Vermont and businesses in Southern Vermont, as well as towns down here, have gone through, ranging from the EAP, which is free, all the way up to like private trainers that are expensive. We are waiting for your approval of this, and then we'll be prepared to come to the next meeting with a short, digestible list along with all the logistics that would be involved, so that you could pick something without having to do a lot of legwork. And we're prepared to do that effort and present you with something that you can act on. But for us, before we do that level of work, we would like to know if this is something that you are gonna, accept. And then we're really happy to work with you to find something that works for your needs and the town, and that could be offered to the community at large. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's an important topic. I'm not sure we can mandate anyone to do a training. I need to look into that further.
Not asking.
I'm not sure that the select board.
It's not our issue.
Well, I'd like to have the opportunity to research it more after seeing all the presentation, for myself anyway, to reread all of your letters and all of your thoughts and have it on the next meeting and have your list of possible trainings available so we can see what agencies. And I think if it's open to the town and anybody who's a member of the town wants to attend any training that they feel they want to attend on their own, that is great.
Would this be like a course, 6 or 8 weeks, or would it be an annual, yearly workshop that lasts for 6 hours one day on a Saturday? Or what sort of different types of courses are we discussing when we're talking about we're going to do some training?
Both of those options exist. You could pick, like you could let us know, and hey, we'd rather do like a Saturday afternoon every year or something. We can make that happen. Or the other way, the ongoing training. All of those options already exist. There are online trainings you can do yourself. There are train the trainer options where one person goes, gets trained on teaching it and brings it back to a community so that it becomes free at the second level. I know the school's going through training. I think Fiona can speak to that more specifically, but there are a lot of different options. It depends on what would work for you. It does not need to be, it also, and coming back to the mandate thing, no one is asking you to require everyone who moves through the town of Newfane in any capacity to, get trained in this. It's more about an invitation and asking the select board and everyone who's in the town infrastructure to voluntarily undergo the training. And if that doesn't work, fair enough. But having that be a town sponsored thing matters. Having it come from the town power structure itself is an important piece of this. Not just, we are really into the decentralized grassroots stuff. Everything we do is that this is something that we can't do as well as you can. And that's why we're asking you to do it, because you're going to be better at this than we are because of that power dynamic.
Shelley?
How are we going to be better than you by doing this?
Because if you take this on, then it's addressing that specific power dynamic within the town in terms of who's making the rules, who's coming to the meetings, who's making all those, who's thinking about the residents from different angles. That is more powerful than just like me. I'm just Joe Schmo down the road. I'm nobody. You guys are the select board. So for you to do this is more powerful than it is for me to do it. And I'll show up to the training along with, apparently 145 other people. But
we supported Dan Dewalt's organization for social responsibility, justice, whatever his name is right now, for our community to deal with any disparities, concerns. I've even gone to one myself. Okay, I've been dated men from all over this world. Okay, from the dirt hut in Kenya. For me, it's not an issue. But I'm not going to stop the board from participating, but legally we don't have to.
That's right. You don't.
I think there's a lot more to discuss and come up with. And I think with all of this information that's been presented to the board this evening, I think we need to digest it and have it on the agenda as a running item so that we can address this in a proper manner.
Well, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Could we preview the programs that you would be suggesting to the board so that we would know what was in them?
Aren't you part of the same group?
I'm not in support of that.
Fiona?
The idea behind this is to have the select board say, we would like to offer a training to the town employees as well as the community in large, because we believe that it's important for us to look at our unconscious bias. And I think that is what we're asking for. The details are all up to, the details are the next step, which comes after the yay or nay from the select board. And I think it's really important that it's not what exactly is in the trainings, because that's going to come from, that's the next step of taking a look at, now that we've said yes or we've said no, that it's an important thing for us to look at what makes sense for our town. And that's the work that we would like to come up with a list and then have you guys look at them, because you as the select board have the pulse on our town, and you would know best what would make sense and what would work for our town. Today, what we're asking for is for you to say, make a commitment to say, yes, we believe that this is an important thing. And then the details can come down the road. I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it, if that makes sense. And I think it's really important for us to really look at exactly what would be in a training to make it effective and to make it worthwhile. Because we don't want to offer something, have the select board offer something that isn't applicable to our town, isn't going to really help our town become even better than it is. So I think that's something that it would take a lot of time to do. So I think looking at the details takes away from the important work of like saying, yes, this is an important thing for our town.
Okay.
That's the steps I would like to see happen. Thank you.
We can look at it later.
I'm sorry. One person at a time, please. Thank you, Fiona. I appreciate that. Gloria,
You're welcome.
for a moment. You have something quick? Because we are running out of time.
Yeah.
Gloria.
I would really like Anne to go ahead and look for materials too, because you've had that training and excellent one. So I think that Anne, Chris, maybe Juliet could share the trainings, the list, so that you could do some investigation. I appreciate that concern, but we're not going, and sometimes when we go into a select board meeting and the select board has that information and those of us in the audience don't, it's very difficult to say, yeah, that would work for the town. So I think as a select board, you have your fingers on the pulse of the town, but on the other hand, you've got lots of different pulses going along. So essentially what I'm trying to say, I guess, is I'd love to see the select board, particularly Anne, who knows this, that anybody else in the audience or outside have suggestions for this kind of training, get it to us. Send it to WRV mutualaid.com.
Thank you, Gloria. One moment, please. What is this letter that was handed to me?
It's just a request to be involved in the selection process should you make that decision.
Would you like me to read it out loud?
No, you don't need to.
Not at this time? Okay.
Again,
Can Zena speak?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I think the program is a really good program. And I think you guys are doing a good job trying to present it. And I'm wondering why, this is the first time I've heard of the program you're in now, Wyndham. Yes, the mutual aid program, which I went on the website and I checked it out. You have 153 plus followers. Why wouldn't you offer that training right on your website? You have followers, you have your training, you have everything there, and this is all being televised, so it's getting out to the community, and the select board doesn't really need to make a decision since you have everything available. If you have your trainings and everything, it's what you can put on the website for people to sign up. You have a join your group. I would think we could join in on the training if we choose to select to, if that makes any sense.
Shelley?
we have people coming here all the time looking for our support, either financial or letter support. But this group, this board, is not responsible or mandated to provide a training on diversity, nor any other kind of training.
Well, what I have from suggestion from legal advice is that the board can voluntarily decide it wants to participate or not, and it can decide if it wants to promote any such training to the community. And we cannot bind one member or another to attend. So
Can I make another suggestion?
Yep. You go ahead.
I've heard Angela say 2 or 3 times that she'd like a little more time to look through this thing. I mean, it sounds to me like everybody's just trying to push us into this tonight and make a decision. Angela's been saying, I've heard her say 2 or 3 times, I'd like to have this postponed until next week, our next meeting. I want to look this over. I want to go through things. I want to do that. I make a suggestion. That's what we do.
There's just a lot of information given to us tonight that we need to digest and look through. All of your letters. We need to read all of your letters, think about what everybody has said, and make a conscious decision as a board for our town so that everybody is heard. And
I would agree. For us, you may have been discussing this for several weeks, maybe months, I'm not sure. We've only just received your letter in the last week. We have had very little time to digest the contents of it and the flurry of responses that have come in from all over the community, positive and negative, and we just need a little bit more time. I think that there is benefit to training like this. Personally, I think that, yeah, I probably will.
No, I'm saying in general.
Right.
Participate if you want.
I've spoken with people who are doctors and things like that in the professional nature who are dealing with the public all the time. And one of the refrains that I continuously hear in those conversations is, I wish I had majored in, I wish I had done my undergrad degree in humanities or in religion so that I understood my people as well as I understood the things I'm diagnosing them for and what their reactions are to the things that I'm saying based on their experience. And I think that's a very valuable point of view. And I think it's something that anybody who works with the public on a regular basis probably has questions for. Why in their own experiences, and this helps soften those confusion. It's no different than international business training, what to do when you're visiting someone somewhere else, to not be insulting just through body posture, all kinds of things like that. And that it is a lot like sexual harassment training. It's not an accusation by any means. You're just expected to do the training. As such, I still feel like we need more time to decide if the town does have a position to hold regarding this.
And in the meantime, you can still be working on finding and looking at the types of trainings that are out there to present to the board. Johanna?
Thank you. I totally agree with what you say. Take your time. That's a great thing. Think about it. Look at lots of programs. But I just want to point out again that you guys are not your average Joe Schmoes, right? You guys are the select board. And as such, you are what you do and what you say. You're making decisions about things all the time. You know, your people are coming to you and asking for things. You are the heavies in town, if you will. And so what you do is it carries more weight than just us. You know, so like Juliet, she can go to training, but that's just Juliet. She's not representing the town of Newfane. And so I think that's why we're all coming to you and asking you to do it, because what you do carries weight and it says something. It says something to our town. It says something to the state. It says something, you know, it's a very loud megaphone. And so, you know, even if you're not interested in this training, the fact that you go, if you were to go, would be important, and it sends a message. And so I think you have to think about that as a town representative, the importance of your actions. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I really appreciate everyone presenting and sending us letters and giving us information. I think it's really important to have it on our agenda next meeting to discuss and everybody look through everything that was said and given to us to read and come up with a statement or something that, I don't know, the vision.
Yeah.
What the select board would do.
Could I ask, from the research that you've done, do you have any details about what other towns in Vermont have done in this regard? And would you be in a position to pull together a memo, just detailing what you know of which towns have done what and any other details you might be able to get? Because I think since you're asking us as a town to take this on, I would find it very useful to have a really clear sense of what other towns are doing.
Yes, absolutely, we can do that. I can tell you off the top of my head that the Rutland Chamber of Commerce, Brattleboro, and Putney are all undertaking really similar trainings to this in ways that fit their town's needs. And so, and that's without doing any extra research right now. So yeah, absolutely, we can pull together the details.
Something, Julianne. You said the Chamber of Commerce.
In Rutland.
Okay, but that's a business group. It's not a government group. So great to know that they're doing that. But specifically, I would be wanting to hear of any towns that are doing it through the select board. That comes, or maybe it's coming through other groups, and that would be useful to know too. But specifically, my question is, are there other towns that are doing it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can pull that together for you.
Great.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Gloria?
I talked with Chris Campany early on, and he's the director of the Wyndham Regional Commission. And certainly as Wyndham Regional Commission, they're looking into training. He said that the VLCT was too involved at this point with the COVID things. So I'll check with Chris and get you that information, but the whole Wyndham Regional is looking at training.
That's great. And like I said, all the information that's being given, I want to hear from all sides, and that way it helps us make a conscious decision about what's going on and how we can do what's best for the town. And personally, I need a little bit more time to digest all of the information. So would you all be willing to come back to the next meeting to present again?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your time and for the good questions. Thank you.
So would that be unscheduled members of the public? I guess we could keep going on and on with more comments, right?
I think we could probably, how long did we spend on this?
It's important to hear from everyone. So that's why I like to take the time to let everyone speak and hear what they have to say, because otherwise we're not hearing from all of the town. So that was important.
Well, it's only 5% of the town that we heard from.
But it's important to hear from everyone that's here and present. So moving on to old business, the animal control update. Katie, would you like to present on that?
Sure. So we had, how far do I need to go back?
Just a quick update on what was since the last meeting.
Just what was in your email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since the last meeting, I have contacted the owners of the dogs and set up a meeting date and inspection date to see that they had completed their fence project with the animal control officer from Dover, Sandy McDougall. And we went last Tuesday at 4 p.m. and visited the owner's home, and they had completed a fence. And it was secure, it was made of wire, well reinforced with wood at the bottom. And that's great. I thank them for finishing the fence. And barring any further grievous incident, this is now done, and that's a good thing. Juliet, I hope you appreciate that as well.
Thank you so much for doing that and taking care of it. And we get a thumbs up from Juliet. Excellent. And I would just like to make an announcement just from the board about animals, and that we do have an ordinance with dogs, and we're going to put it on Front Porch Forum so that anyone that has a dog would please take the time to read it. There have been several issues about dogs running loose, and if you do have a dog, just remember maybe a fence, or take them on a leash or a tether of some sort so they don't go out chasing people or other animals. That would be really wonderful. And also there is town ordinance to clean up after your animals, and there have been complaints about that. So please clean up after your animals. That would be very helpful.
Also, please license your animals.
And also come in and license your dogs. That's a very important step. So that will be on the town website and Front Porch Forum, so everyone can read it.
Put it in the Newfane Recline newsletter so that people don't go on Front Porch Forum and also read it.
Thank you so much for that suggestion. I will make sure you have a copy. Thank you. All right, so we need to move on to the tax sale policy and procedures to approve or amend. Did everybody have a chance to review? No, we continued it.
Yeah.
So everybody had a
I
chance to
reviewed it.
review it.
I make a motion to accept it.
I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. We shall sign that this evening. That's done. Any new business? Oh, wait, sorry, Ann.
I don't have
Discuss
any-
ideas on the new town.
Sorry, I don't have an update. I was really busy the last 2 weeks and did not get a chance to do what I said I would do, but I will, and I'll have it for the next meeting.
Excellent. We will keep you on the agenda for old business. Okay. Any new business? Excellent. We have correspondence reaction to White Walch letters. I feel like
Dan read that.
That was pretty
earlier.
well discussed. Support of anti-racism training for town employees and officials from Nicole, Graziano, Thomas, Eli, Johanna, Gardner. She read her letter, and Reverend Hamm, he read his letter.
Can we just put them in
Available
availability
to
to the public? If
We will make all correspondence to all of this as available, and so everyone can stop in and see Juanetta and read. And like I said, this will be on the agenda so we can discuss it further and at length, and invite everybody to come back and continue talking at the next meeting. Is there anything else? Thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our meeting tonight. It's really appreciated to hear from so many members of the public. And we are going to move into pay orders. Stay safe and have a good evening.